Newcastle at home to Liverpool. Let's take a look at the betting as we have it at matchbook.com, because we've got two fascinating opposite thoughts from both the guys here. Newcastle are the favourites, 2.62. Liverpool 2.86. The draw is available at 3.65. Both teams to score has just changed there, as you saw on screen. It's now 1.71. 2.38 is no. And the Asian handicap line sees draw no bet effectively. Newcastle 1.9, Liverpool 2.08. We'll touch back on that market in a second. And the goal line is 2.5, a good bit shaded towards the over. So we're looking at potentially goals here. Mark, we'll hand this over to you first. Just to give people the context, you're going for Newcastle in the draw no bet market, and Adrian's going for Liverpool. So I'm interested and fascinated by both these cases here.
Sure. It's not going to be my strongest selection of the weekend by any stretch, but yeah, Newcastle, I guess we're talking about Arsenal kind of slowing down a little bit. Newcastle, who have exceeded expectations by a long stretch already this season, to be sat inside the top four. They've lost just one Premier League game in 22, have qualified for a Wembley Cup final, have matched a club record unbeaten run. There was a real sense of frustration about their performance last weekend at Bournemouth, which kind of goes to show how far they've come. It's now 5 draws in the last 6, which has slowed progress. They weren't anywhere near their best at Bournemouth, and Bruno Guimarães' absence is being keenly felt as well. You know, if Trippier doesn't clear that goal line effort in the 90th minute, they could have lost that game. But yeah, you know, Guimarães absent again. Whilst he doesn't sort of single-handedly kind of solve the creating and conversion problems, he does raise performance levels. And when he's out of the team, you know, that is a negative against Newcastle. And Eddie Howe has been criticised a little bit recently for probably being a little bit too slow to read matches tactically and get the best out of his troops when they're perhaps not at their best. But team news is positive again. Callum Wilson's back. And perhaps I think a home tie against Liverpool will rouse the home crowd at St James's Park enough to sort of reach their recent levels. And Liverpool may have won and looked improved against Everton on Monday night, but as we said, Everton were missing, you know, a very important player to how they like to play. And this isn't a Liverpool team whose away record is remarkably poor this season. Only 5 sides have collected fewer away points than Liverpool. They've won just twice on their Premier League travels all season, and they've conceded 3 goals in each of their last 3 away Premier League matches, each of which have ended in defeat all season long. Their away record averaging 1.9 goals per game against, and they're meeting a pretty formidable Newcastle defence, which at St James's Park is very, very little away. So whilst Monday was a step in the right direction, I think it's hard to ignore the wider problems that Liverpool have encountered in the past weeks, months, across the whole season. So ultimately, the way I looked at this match was Newcastle have lost 1 game all season. It was a very unfortunate loss in the reverse game at Anfield. They're unbeaten at St James's Park. They've lost only 2 of 25 home league games under Eddie Howe against the Liverpool team, who've won twice in 10 on their travels, conceding goals consistently. So I've sided with Newcastle with the draw no bet on side, knowing that if the draw, I get my cash back. So the only way the bet loses is if Liverpool win. And look, they're more than capable of it. But you know, counting all that into perspective, and I just think Newcastle, I'd rather be with them than Liverpool at the prices.
Okay, yeah. Over to you, Adrian, on this. And Liverpool have been a tough team to place all season. I was amazed looking at the Premier League table to remind myself they're not out of this top 4 battle at all.
No, they're not. Yeah, they'll believe it, won't they? And look, if the front 3 can click like they did at times against Everton, then they've got a chance, haven't they, of sort of reigniting their campaign. Obviously, Nunez for the goal was great, wasn't he? And Salah profited for a shocking piece of goalkeeping from Jordan Pickford. Cody Gakpo obviously got off the mark. That was a good piece of football with his goal. And I think that one of the telling aspects of this game, and one of the reasons I'm also siding with Liverpool, is the return of Jota and the return of Roberto Firmino. Finally, Jurgen Klopp has some options now from the bench. He can rest and rotate. He can change things up mid-game, which isn't really something he's been capable of doing of late because of the injury problems. The other red flag for Newcastle is midfield. They haven't got any midfielders left. Sean Longstaff will play. He's the only one of Eddie Howe's preferred 3 that's going to be fit, because normally it's Guimarães and Willock in there. Willock's out with a hamstring injury. Guimarães is suspended. Joel Linton has dropped back in recent games. So he'll play alongside Longstaff. There's no one else that stands out. I don't know whether Elliot Anderson's going to play or whether Eddie Howe will just have to change the system from 4-3-3 and maybe go 4-2-3-1 and put Isak in behind Wilson or something like that, something different. But he hasn't got enough midfielders. And that's a really, really important part of the field for obvious reasons. And I just feel that Liverpool, buoyed by that win against Everton, might be able to go against the numbers, which, Mark's bang on. I mean, those numbers tell a story of Liverpool being so weak on their travels. It's ridiculous. The last 3 away performances have been pathetic, really. But do I see Liverpool losing a 4th consecutive away game? No, I just think sooner or later they have to click back into gear. And with this depleted Newcastle midfield, rejuvenated forward, boosted by the return of Jota and Firmino, I think they can get a result here. And Mo Salah likes playing against Newcastle. I think he's got 6 goals in 10 games against them. One of his lucky teams. It's just, I looked at it the same way in terms of it's a good price for a draw no bet. Odds against. But I'm going to go with Liverpool.
Yeah, Mark made a compelling case, but I have to say Adrian's stood his ground, and I'm going to sit on the fence well and truly, but maybe tip the draw myself, in which case both guys don't lose. Incidentally, top 4 prices, I did mention at the top of the talking about this game about Liverpool having a chance at top 4. Newcastle currently 2.0, 50-50 chance that they get top 4 this season. Liverpool are 3.95. The market is not writing them off yet. And this is as big a game as they'll have probably to the end of the season, Adrian.
If you want to...
Go on, Mark, you come in, I'll get that price.
Yeah, if you want to be with Liverpool this weekend, and as I said from the start, it's not a strong view at all to be with Newcastle. But if you do want to be with Liverpool, that would be, for me, the way to possibly attack this match. More of a long-term view, but actually back Liverpool to finish in the top 4. Because if they win this game and they win their game in hand, I think they go to within 3 points of Newcastle. Newcastle played a game more, so there's almost a kind of 6-point turnaround if they were able to get a victory in this game. And if you're saying that they're nearly 3-1 to finish in the top 4, that for me would be much more appealing than backing them to actually win at St James's Park. But long way to go.
Yeah, Spurs, incidentally, Adrian, 3.35. So they're also not being written out of it, despite a couple of recent defeats to Leicester and AC Milan.